Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters, the programme that brings you the best and exclusive reports by the France 24 team from around the world. Millions of tourists flock to Morocco each year to enjoy the sun, to see the sights, to relax and basically enjoy a different way of life. But there are increasing numbers of people who are going there to exploit young and vulnerable people, male and female, for sex. Prostitution is often called the world's oldest profession, but the young people featured in our report haven't made a career choice. They're trapped in a cycle of exploitation, many having fallen victim to the AIDS virus, and all have been used, some even abused, illegally. The plight of young people forced into selling themselves to sex tourists has been brought into sharp focus after allegations a French minister went to Morocco to have sex with young boys. Our report is by Karim Hakiki. We'll hear from him after the English version of his piece, narrated by Luke Schrager.
Morocco hosts 8 million tourists every year. A financial godsend that brings the kingdom in up to 10 billion euros. A family-friendly destination, Marrakech is an up-and-coming tourist hotspot. Jet-setters and the more experimental travellers are drawn to the city and all pass through the main Jemaa el-Fna Square. But after nightfall, a different kind of tourist comes out to play. Men, alone, on the hunt for easy prey. To get a closer look, France 24 had to film with a hidden camera. And it wasn't long before our crew was approached.
Hello, mate. What are you looking for? You want sex? I got what you need. I can get anything here. I've got kids. Come on, have a chat with them and there you go. It's not expensive. 30 euros.
We decided not to go any further. But just a few minutes later, our new acquaintance had come back with a 17-year-old youth in tow, along with a price list. 30 euros for the night. Jemaa el-Fna Square is under permanent surveillance by the tourist police and 16 cameras. But that still hasn't stopped this foreigner from negotiating a liaison with a young boy on a bike, just a few meters from the police station. Few are surprised by the practice anymore. It's become as much a part of Marrakech as the cobbled streets. This is Samir. HIV positive, he's worked as a male prostitute on the square for 4 years. His ordeal began at the age of just 12, after meeting a man who offered him a chance to make some easy money. Like thousands of other children, Samir was quickly brought into a paedophile network. When it happens, recruitment goes into overdrive, and soon, kids are approached directly.
One day I was playing pool. A French guy came over to see me. He offered me some money, and I followed him. And that's how it began. They asked me to sleep with them. I didn't understand at all at the beginning what was happening. They made me physically and psychologically ill. Because of them, I had no will at all. And now I just feel bad.
Samir comes from Mellah, one of Marrakech's poorer districts. You won't see any tourists there. Samir dropped out of school to work the streets and earn some money. At the time, he was alone supporting his family.
It was easy money. There are a lot of tourists looking for kids in Marrakech. They've got money, and we've got nothing. So what do you think? We have to sell ourselves. Our families are poor. They refuse to let us come home in the evening if we're not bringing back any money. And when that happens, what are you going to do? We have to feed our families any way we can. It's become ordinary.
For Mustafa Erashdi, it's not the end of the road. He's a lawyer for an NGO that fights against paedophilia in Morocco. But his job's not easy. Few families speak out against paedophiles, leaving an overwhelming sense of silence on the issue. A big problem with cases on the rise.
من بعد تسونامي اختار السياح الذين كانوا يذهبون إلى شرق After the tsunami, you saw sex tourists who had been rampant throughout Southeast Asia. They poured into Morocco. The country has been like some kind of haven for them, thanks to its proximity, its poverty, and the passive nature of Moroccan authorities.
هناك سياحة، هناك واقع، الناس تجي لمراكش.
There's a major problem of sex tourism in Marrakech and in Morocco in general. Instead of selling our culture and traditions, we're selling the sun and our children.
NGOs and their lawyers want harsher sentences applied to paedophiles. Currently, they face just 2 years behind bars if convicted.
In Moroccan law, the word pedophile doesn't even exist. The penal code only mentions incest or the rape of a minor. We just don't have any laws against sex tourism.
Today, Mustafa and Samir have gone to a weekly meeting with the group's members. With 200 cases on the go, it's a chance for everyone to get on the same page.
While there are rapes, attacks and aggression against children, we have to do something to protect them.
Everyone here is a volunteer, and all have little in the way of income. But they're determined to fight the law's indifference and Moroccan society's taboos. The group wants the state to protect its children from sexual predators.
The authorities should do their job, which is looking at the people coming into our country. This kind of tourism is totally unacceptable. Our country is not a zone where anything goes and tourists can do what they want. The aim of creating this group is to break down the wall of silence. Before, families were unable to talk about sexual exploitation and bring the culprits to heel through legal means. Society has scarcely begun to acknowledge the existence of child rape.
In a legal vacuum, it's hard for victims to have their voices heard. Moreover, social conventions are strong, and Karim regrets breaking the law of silence.
I'm fed up of this situation. I don't want this life anymore. I'm living like a plague victim. I can't take it anymore. Already, it's so much more than what I went through before. Okay, I can't talk about this anymore. I can't stand thinking about it.
2 hours away from Marrakech is Essaouira, necessary viewing for foreign tourists. The peaceful town hasn't yet been taken over by mass prostitution, largely thanks to the efforts of Hassan. He's the president of the Baiti Prevention Group that looks at getting children off the streets.
Hey, good morning. You okay? Haven't seen you for some time.
Can I come and see you?
Yes, of course. You could come at 4, for example. And we can talk about your problem.
يلا خالد الله يعاونك بارك الله عليك السلام عليكم الله يبارك فيك السلام عليكم.
There are always new kids arriving here in Essaouira. They're attracted by the tourist money. They've also been self-reliant for some time. Hey, hello you. It's our job to get them before it's too late. We try and get in touch with their families so that the kids aren't stuck out in the streets.
Baiti's volunteers are alone in the work they're doing in Essaouira. They're fighting against a rising tide, and there's no end in sight. Back in Marrakech, Moroccan authorities have already been totally overwhelmed. Our crew went to speak to the man in charge of the town's social services.
كيخص تعديل ديال القوانين الزجرية اللي الهاجس ديالنا الكبير.
We have to improve repressive laws. Our biggest concern is getting to a real state of prevention.
جميع المناطق اللي فيها
We're looking at all zones of risk in our areas. That's at the heart of our work. And alerting the services concerned.
Gillies is a well-known hotspot for prostitution in Marrakech. By day, the well-heeled district is a meeting point for trendy young Moroccans, and its shops draw in many foreign tourists. You can buy anything in Gillies, even human beings. As dusk falls, prostitutes begin to appear along the pavement. Often, like these two girls, they're extremely young. Hotels in the area offer a chance for a more discreet encounter. This man at the front desk is booking a room for the night with some female company. For people who prefer the other sex, you just have to take an outside seat at one of the cafes. Solicitation can be circumspect.
Hey, how you doing? I work with tourists.
You're a tour guide?
Well, no, not exactly. I know tourists, but I'm not a guide.
What do you mean?
What? I sell sex.
How much is it?
I have a French friend who comes to Marrakech for 1 week a year. He gives me 50 euros a day to live with him while he's here.
We go to find Samir again. He's not looking well. HIV is doing its work. Samir has eaten nothing for 2 days and still refuses to look after himself.
No one is helping me find any work. The only thing you can do here is steal, sell drugs, or sell yourself to the tourists. I don't want to do it, but I need money to live. Who's going to give me a job? I'm looking, but I have no illusions. Everyone knows my story here in Marrakech.
Samir has nowhere to go but back to Jamal Fna Square, where his ordeal first began. For those trapped in the sex industry, there's little in the way of respite.
Well, our reporter Karim Hakiki is here with us. Karim, shocking stuff in your report, made all the more disturbing by these allegations that a French politician had been involved in this kind of behaviour.
Well, listen, what I can tell you is that this case is being discussed in Morocco. Many people discuss this issue. I spoke with a procurer in the street in Morocco, who was very well aware of the situation. He said that since this happened, it was much more difficult for them to do their job. And I asked them, how so? Well, the police is more aware and paying closer attention to our activities. If you want children, well, you have to be careful, because since this case, well, Moroccan authorities are increasingly aware of the problem.
So why do these young people, boys, girls, fall into prostitution?
Well, there are several reasons for this. The simplest reason, first and foremost, is poverty. All of these children come from a neighborhood that is right next to the Jemaa El Fna Plaza, a neighborhood that the tourists never go to. I went through this neighborhood and saw that it was social poverty, extreme poverty. They often come from single-parent families. The second reason is facility. It's quite easy. In fact, the procurers will use these children, pick them up after school and tell them that you can earn $30, 30 euros quite quickly for $30 before they would have to sell tissues or other products, and it's much easier to simply sell their bodies. And the demand is quite strong and increasingly strong in Morocco.
You say the families are aware sometimes of what's going on. It's a horrible situation.
Extremely complicated in any case. At least for these children, their families are poor. These families have many children, and the children must work. The situation is as following. They are tourists, they have money, and what do the tourists want? Well, traditionally they will buy souvenirs, but in Marrakech it's quite more complicated. Since the tsunami in South Asia, many of the sex offenders moved from southern Asia to Morocco, because it's just as cheap and less complicated to go to Morocco now. The families want the money, but they do not want to hear about what their children are doing. When the children are caught, however, and their parents understand that they were part of a prostitution network, they are often kicked out of their families.
How about the authorities? Are they doing all they can to stop this?
They are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed and are living out a contradiction. They do not want to scare tourists away. The good old tourist that comes to Marrakech, Morocco is not Thailand. It's a lot of jet-set tourism. There are families that go there for tourism as well, but there are also sex offenders, of course. And they do not understand that by tackling this issue, they could free these children. They would rather not talk about the issue to not scare tourism away. Tourism accounts for 10 billion euros a year for Morocco. And also, this is a Muslim country, and it is quite taboo and difficult to speak about these issues. In Arabic, the word pedophilia simply does not exist. We must change the mindset.
Karim, it wasn't easy watching your report. Very disturbing stuff, but very vital that it was exposed. And these kids, I can only imagine, have a very bleak future ahead of them. Thank you, sir, for your insight. Thank you for your report. And most of all, thank you very much for watching this reporter's programme. You can see it again via our website, france24.com. And of course, I ask you to stay with us here on France 24.